Welcome to Futurum Tech TV. I'm your host today, Daniel Newman, principal analyst at Futurum Research. Excited for this tech bite today with Usman Shuja. He's the chief commercial officer at Honeywell Connected Enterprise. Usman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, in this little segment, I want to talk to you a little bit about Honeywell, its direction, where it's headed. But before I do that, I always like to introduce our guests, even for these short segments, because I'd like everyone out there to get to know you a little bit. So I said Chief Commercial Officer, Honeywell Connected Enterprise, but what does that mean?
Great question. I get that question a lot. So in this role, I am responsible for Honeywell's transformation, the commercial transformation into an industrial software company. So I have both organic and inorganic growth responsibility for industrial software for Honeywell.
Yeah, it sounds like a big job. There's been a ton of headlines lately about what your team is doing over there at Honeywell and Connected Enterprise. I've read them on Barron's. I've been reading about Honeywell and Fortune lately. And not just, obviously, Honeywell's a huge brand. In the middle of a pandemic, a lot of people know the company, everything from, getting N95 masks to the right places, to the to the thermostats that control buildings. But overall, Honeywell is really sort of transitioning and reinventing itself in a lot of ways as a tech company. We've talked about the quantum business. Your business, Connected Enterprise, is a really big one. So, I kind of mentioned, headlines are touting. They're kind of calling you a rising tech company, which hasn't really historically been what you've been called, but rather an industrial giant. You guys have recent tie-ups, Microsoft, SAP, and others. Talk about this. Talk about the changing company DNA and basically how this is good for customers and investors at Honeywell.
That's a really good question, Daniel. I'm a big believer in company DNAs. Companies that have good DNAs generally catch good market trends. And while Honeywell software is relatively new to Honeywell, Honeywell's DNA has always been of innovation as well as catching market trends. So while this is a new trend, Honeywell's legacy of 100 years, yes, it has been industrial, but it has been very technology driven, technology focused. And sometimes we get annoyed that we are not sometimes considered technology company. We are and have been a technology company ever since the inception. So with that said, the investors are taking notice of our transition and transformation. And there are three big reasons for that, right? One is this is a big market that we are targeting, and it turns our economy and our revenue into recurring revenue. The other is we are taking a very practical approach to industrial transformation. As you probably know, a lot of industrial companies have targeted digital transformation or the trends of digital transformation, and they have tried to transform themselves into industrial software companies and have stumbled because this is a new space. And Honeywell is taking a very practical approach to it. But the most important and the third reason why investors are catching this is catching investors' attention is the customer traction. Honeywell software is being delivered at scale. We are building a new category, enterprise performance management, and that we are taking to market as SaaS applications that are impacting and improving customers' performance, their sustainability goals, or their remote operations goals. And that is happening at scale, and they're seeing 20 to 40% improvement in their operations. So it's delivering results at scale, and that's what's turning heads. So in the end, that's what really is meaningful to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you said really follows kind of what I was. It's about, validation. The market is starting to validate this new identity of Honeywell. But in your case, right, maybe not fast enough to appease the leadership, which realizes it's been a tech company for a long time. And again, this is a bit of a DNA change because when you play in many spaces, you can liken it to even like an Amazon that does, retail commerce, but also has a giant cloud business. It's like, are they a tech company or, well, when you do a lot of things, sometimes you get labeled in different categories, but more and more Honeywell is really seemingly layering tech into every part of its business, much like the other company that I mentioned. IoT, for instance, a massive opportunity. You talk about edge, you talk about IoT, you talked about SaaS. One of the things I know when I learned about Forge that I was very impressed by was sort of the open source container microservices type platform that truly embraced the hybrid architecture that companies are starting to, not even starting to, are really committed to. So let's talk about that. IoT, big opportunity. This seems to be an area that the connected enterprise performance management, it's all leaning into very heavily. Give me a little bit of a view, a little context about where it is, where it's going.
Yeah. Look, our name is Connected Enterprise. So the origin of Honeywell's Connected Enterprise came from the fact that we were in the hardware business and our legacy has been in control systems. Now that we have artificial intelligence and software capabilities, it's the all of them, hardware and the connections, the IoT piece, as well as the software and artificial intelligence coming together. Our vision is that everything will be connected and learning. And you should be able to run your operations from anywhere in the world. You could run it from a coffee shop for that matter. It's also time to take robot out of the human and allow humans to do high order stuff. We want operational data to be easy. We want every worker to become an expert very quickly. And that's the power of IoT and artificial intelligence. And that's what we believe in. We are in a very unique position compared to other industrial companies because our heritage has been control systems. So we sit in the middle of what the digital and the physical world is. And that's why we can create software applications, the SaaS applications that can take information in the domain from the physical world and convert them into software world. And that's what Honeywell Forge is all about. It's about SaaS applications that connect the digital and the physical world. For example, what we're doing with one of the largest universities in Asia is we have taken they have the vision to be carbon-free, carbon neutral by 2030. And we're using our connected buildings, software assets, as well as some of the hardware assets to deliver 20% reduction in energy consumption and energy footprint, as well as improving their operations by more than 10%. So it just allows us to do things that others cannot do because we have also history in understanding BMS, building management system. We know how to read and write back. We are in a very unique position to build autonomous systems. And that's where Honeywell is uniquely positioned. So I personally am, and so is Honeywell, everybody at Honeywell, extremely excited about the IoT and the digital transformation trend and the way we are going to market with SaaS application and enterprise performance management. So we see a big opportunity here because the world is merging, physical and the digital world is combining, and it's going to create a big economy and big change. And we are at the smack in the center of that.
Yeah, it's great. And I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with me, Usman, just to go over that. I see a lot of the same thing. I've said there's really a marriage that needs to take place between the industrial and the tech. You mentioned buildings, jet engines. It can be trains. It can be it can be just all this data that resides in the universe, and then tying it together. And there are great partners that you've worked with. I mentioned SAP and Microsoft. And you're not saying we want to displace these technologies. You're saying we want to work harmoniously with these companies to enable all that data at the edge, all the data from the devices, from sensors, and just basically from our ambient world, as well as from the machines that run day in and day out. We want to use these big tech companies' back-end clouds and infrastructure to build apps and services and tools to deliver the ultimate enterprise performance management. I think it's a great story. I think it's really coming along nicely, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch you lead this into the future.
No, it is exciting, and you're spot on, and we're looking forward to how we can impact the industry and the world.
Yeah. Usman, thank you so much for joining me here on Futurum Tech TV for this Tech Bite. It's been a lot of fun chatting to you. We'll be talking a lot more in future episodes about industrial IoT, about the connection of all the data in our universe. I'm sure Honeywell is going to be at the core of many of those discussions. I hope you and I can have another conversation soon. But for now, I'll let you go. Unless you got one last thing. It sounded like you had something to say.
No, I just wanted to say I'd loved this session and look forward to having a lot more of those. Thank you for having me, and look forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Everybody hit that subscribe button. Stick with us here on YouTube. Join us for our podcast. For now, I got to say goodbye for Featuring Tech TV. Usman, thanks again. See you later.
Thank you.